All is now set for the official swearing-in of the ministers designate today by President Bola Tinubu. This is after the 45 appointees successfully completed the documentation process. On Sunday, President Tinubu also reshuffled some ministers to other positions to enhance efficiency. In a statement by the Director of Information in the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Willie Bassi, each minister designate also collected 3 invitation cards for their guests, ensuring their presence at the ceremony slated 10 a.m. today. Now Nigerians are eagerly anticipating what difference these ministers would make to the country's growth and development. Well, joining us in the studio is former Manager, Public and Government Affairs at Mobil Oil Nigeria PLC, CEO, Chronicler and Associates, Akin Fatunke. Good morning.
Good morning, Veronica. Good morning, Nigerians.
Right. And we also have a public affairs analyst, Ayodele Adewale, joining us in the studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, if you look at the papers this morning, it's a wash with the matter of the ministers designate being inaugurated today, and also the matter of the changes the president made to redeploying some of the ministers from the portfolios they originally got to giving them other portfolios. Now, let's begin with this redeployment. It's been getting divergent reactions. And, well, some say it's for efficiency. Others are saying, well, the president may just know who he can work with. He headhunted these persons and knows their capability as it is. And there are others who say that he had already given them the portfolios he should have known. So why the redeployment again? But from your perspective, Ayodele, what's your perception of this redeployment by the president? Let's begin from there.
Well, you must appreciate the fact that in every system there's something called review.
Right.
You must have done something and you take a second look at it. Oh, why don't we just put it here? And like you said, the most important thing is efficiency. The president have done what is right. He knows them very well. He has the power under the Nigerian Constitution to rejig as often as he wants. And templates already have been made before they came. Remember, the Renewed Hope document is already there. That's the roadmap. So everybody is coming to key into it, and of course, put their own energy to move those systems forward and their thoughts. So we can only wish them the very best of their activity in government, and the hope is very high, and definitely they will deliver.
Definitely they'll deliver. Let me come to you now, Akin Fatunke. The hope is high, like you rightly pointed out. Nigerians are hoping to see something different from the usual they have always known over the years. And so the matter of how strategic the president was with giving these ministers designate their portfolios have come to play as well. Some persons have said perhaps it's just to pacify some persons, some portfolios. Some are saying yes, some other portfolios were given to the right persons. But let's get your perception of the president's strategy with these portfolios he gave to the ministers designate.
There is no art by which you can ever find the mind's construction in the face, like Shakespeare. And with-skilled managers sometimes have things up their brains that you may not necessarily be able to put in ABC. However, I agree with you, Veronica, and I agree with my comrade Adewale that the hopes are high for me. I know for vast majority of people, I think something is a bit more than higher that is expected. 85 days today since inauguration on Monday, 29th of May, again Monday, we are getting some 45 ministers on. In specific reference to the redesignation, renaming, descriptive. Okay, I give it to him. I I also say that the only thing that cannot change ever is when you are stalled and you are rigid to, to change itself. In other words, what I'm saying is that change is very fluid and very, 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 very mobile. I will quickly just want to add that I describe the expectations as more than high because I think Mr. President had an ample time, an ample opportunity since, let's give it to, since May 29, 85 days ago, to have headhunted, like you mentioned, and then he did. What I would have preferred, I think majority of Nigerians would have preferred, is that as at that time, worst case scenario, they should have gone with designations to the National Assembly. I also expected that the National Assembly should not necessarily go with the normal bow, take a bow, and all that kind of stuff. But in accounting or in finance, there are something you call sunk costs. So that's sunk. So we are here now. To the extent, in my honest opinion, that we now have a minister that will be looking directly at marine economy, speaks to the fact that somehow, my guess, this president is listening and is following cloud computing and getting the likes of Bosun into digital economic communication and stuff like this. It's also listening, and it's also listening to the fact that you need to get your tripod right. Niger Delta Development Authority moving in there, and getting the likes of pretty looking ladies who I think have it upstairs. Doris in labor, take note. The professor that is going to be in education, for that matter, Daily Alaki in solid minerals, looking for new hope, new horizon, because managerially, what we need is for you to be an entrepreneur of some sorts, for you to be able to go. Strategy-wise, also, I must also admit that Mr. President has decided that some people call it IOUs, some people call it political sagacity, some people call it rewards to politics. Some people call it the fact that if you are going to hire, please permit this, if you are going to hire a very good guard for your band, go get someone that has been, quote unquote, a chief who knows the way of how to catch some of these thieves. But if we are now going to be having the KPIs and keep KPAs, key performance action, to these new ministers, I think it's a good strategy in the right direction. We are fat, 45 at this time, going to 48. I hope the ministers will come with a new vista, and the ministers who are going to come with showing example and showing the way. Already the perception is out there that we are over-bloated. So what can you therefore do to watch your ministry? Don't work in silos, making sure that whether you are in digital economy, you are in labor, you are in finance, you are in health, fantastic people that I've seen here, including tourism, including creative industry, where we have Anatu Musawa. They have their jobs all cut out for them, and they need to start to deliver, not from today, I dare say. The delivery should have started just yesterday, so it means they need to pace up and double up. Good luck to them.
Right. Good luck to them indeed. Now, let me come back to you, Ayodele. He mentioned so many things, and one of the things that some persons have said with regards to the spread across the various geopolitical zones is that the president was though strategic, but there are some who have come out of these zones to say that this portfolio is handed over. Some say it was a coup against a particular region. Others are saying that they were not well represented. But the president, before now, had said that he's his government is a government of national unity as against national competence, or government of national competence as against government of national unity, I must say. But when you look at this, the spread geopolitically, do you see that in play? Because there has been also issues with regards to that.
Well, the president has worked with national character. All of these people that he has chosen, take it or leave it, they did or do originate from those geopolitical zones, except you want to tell them that they don't have entitlement to their origin, right? And they might have gone to other climes to acquire knowledge, acquire material, and all whatnot. But you cannot deny them that they are not from those enclaves. And if indeed they are from those enclaves, then the president have done what is right.
Right.
And I keep saying that you cannot sacrifice competence at the altar of self-pity. The president has a job to do. The job is to fix Nigeria. Once Nigeria is perfectly fixed, everybody can hinge into that structure in order to develop in accordance to their capacity. We've seen individuals that are more richer than state here in Nigeria.
Right.
You understand? So it's about your capacity. It's not about just limiting your growth to the dictate and dictums of happenings within government stratums. You can live above that.
Right.
And that is why the president, like he did when he came in 1999, have looked out for the best people that he feels can handle and the system with him and team play.
Right.
So that is what he has done.
Okay.
So the best any Nigerian can do now is to watch them as they start. And if they have any idea, they can also lend it to them.
All right. We need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation in the studio. To stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. Before we went to the break, we're speaking with our guests in the studio, talking about former manager, public and government affairs at Mobile Oil Nigeria PLC and CEO, chronicler and associate, Akin Fatunke, as well as public affairs analyst, Ayodele Adewale, on the fact that the ministers designate will be inaugurated today, and then looking at the task ahead of them, as well as the conversations Nigerians are having with the ministers designate if they can deliver on the tasks ahead of them. Let me come to you now, Akin. There is also the notion, before we get into the ministers designate and their portfolios and the task ahead of them, there's also the notion that this whole selection of these persons that were put forward together by the president, that the president was looking at politics. The president had politics in mind at the next cycle of elections when you look at the strategic portfolios some persons had. And I am wondering if you see it in that light as well.
Absolutely no problem in looking at politics. Politics got him there. Right. After all, what I am much more concerned is that even if it's going to go into the parlor of politics, it has to be competent politicians, okay? Politicians who can deliver and who should be able to deliver. A lot of banana peels, if you ask me. Akin to a pilot trying to navigate a plane that nearly about to crash or on its way to crash. What do you do? Sometimes you grab, you know how to do it, there will be people near him. However, it takes the sagacity of a leader who has come through the ranks to also know that if I pick people from my domain, if I go prepender, if I go do the float psalms and the jet psalms that I've seen, that has been our lot, our politics all through the time, you are headed for failure. I see a situation where, permit me to say this, even if it is 5, even if it is 6, even if it is 7, technocrats irrespective of where they have come from. Yes, I say irrespective of where they have come from. I know it's easy to say that. Let's still give it to him. Have we been able to balance with women? Have we been able to balance with youths? Okay. Are we be able to have more politicians? Yes. If these politicians are going to have KPIs, the period of romance should end, in my opinion, within now and 6 months. Because if you do not perform, if you do not perform,
but Nigerians have high expectations.
I know. 6 months is just like snapping a finger, you know? And like Paul on his way to Damascus, who has always been assaulting and killing and whatever it is, there was a change. There was a change of mind. I have seen people in my lifetime, I've seen people with third class. They became great entrepreneurs. The reason why I'm saying give them 6 months. I know that at the end of the day, we should, we should be cognizant of the fact that we have a bit of a K-leg coming in, Muslim ticket. We have a bit of a K-leg saying that the geopolitical zones are not well represented. Not now. It's been wobbled all through because of the constitution we have. I also, for the fear of me, needs to also say that I know President Bola Tinubu made a statement at his acceptance that he likes to work not just with APC, he likes to work with Labour and PDP. And not long after I said that, you know, everybody went their way, I don't want to. So could it be that this president knows there are talents also, whether politics or whatever, you know, technical, in these other fields, but yet they are not going to come in. So let's settle the big elephant in the room, let the courts up to Supreme Court judge, so we can move on with our lives. In the past dispensation, looking at Jonathan's time, and even before then, General Obasanjo, President Jonathan, beg your pardon, and President Obasanjo's time, we had situations where some geopolitical zones felt marginalized. Maybe one, maybe two. They went there and they performed. They performed so well that you hardly even feel. I'm thinking of the likes of Dr. Akinwumi Adesina as an example. I'm thinking of the likes of Mrs. Ezekwesili. I'm thinking of the likes of Okonjo-Iweala. While I agree that the 9, is it 10, perhaps 9 or 7 and 5, when you look at the north, and then you look at the southwest and southeast, yes, seemingly. But let some of those people that have been picked from the southeast go out there, by their performance, look at the demagogue in the face and say, yes, we are here. We are not only going to deliver, we are going to deliver over and above par. That will be my attitude to this. It's been wobbled from the onset. I understand the banana peels Mr. President has to go through. I understand that after all said and done, I mean, we are still saying 48, 49 is still over-bloated, you know. He needs to do a bit of a trade-off. I foresee a situation that going forward, in some strategic area, because we started with strategy, in some strategic areas, I see Mr. President not only recognizing this Southeast political zone after the elections, but getting it over and above the set objectives that we are all looking out for. For now, let's see performance. He has a power of fire and hire. He has told the whole world that we should not pity him. And so this analysis is not about pitying him or you know, whatever it is. You are on the stand with Mr. President. And if these people, irrespective of whatever it is, are not performing, and you don't do what you need to do as the commander-in-chief, you've done this in 85 days, within 30 days, you've taken some relatively bold, I dare say, bold and necessary steps to reform. We need to make sure we fine-tune them. We look at the risk factors involved. It should not be short-term. It should be long-term. We should not set objectives and then be looking for how to implement them. We should look at it from scenario planning, asking the question, what if you understand what I mean? What if Aki is not performing? Well, who should I? Should I not be thinking of Adewale? Should I not be thinking of what he had just done, which I don't have a problem with? It's not too late for you to reshuffle better late, they say, than never.
Right. Let me come to you now, Ayodele. I don't know if you have something you want to react to some of the things I said. Fine. Now, the issue of they have their job cut out for them, talking about this ministers designate. And Nigerians have begun to even set a agenda for some of these persons. That is where I want us to go to now. There are those who lauded the persons that the president put in certain key portfolios, gave certain key portfolios. For instance, Wale Edun, we have Party, we have Bosun Tijani, and there's been conversations around how it is that these persons might even be the ones that would define the presidency of the president as it is. Speak to this matter of the portfolios given to these persons and how you want them to hit the ground running. You mentioned earlier that the agenda ahead of them with regards to the renewed hope document, they are the ones that we know hit the ground running with this document. So talk to us how you want them to hit the ground running with this document.
Well, if you look at the persons of some of this ministerial nominee, the president have done what I would call nano configuration in terms of micro positioning them to where the best fit.
Right.
And all of that, regardless of whether they have some talent in some other areas, right? They have been very specific that, look, you have strength here, you face this job. And those areas where he has concentrated are areas that, one, will help rejig the economy very quickly. Second, create more jobs, huge jobs, like the where Bosun Tijani is coming in from. If you look at the Nigerian population demography now, we have high youth presence in it. And a lot of them do run their daily affairs with technology.
Right.
Now, Bosun coming from that industry, hitting the ground would be very seamless for him. And he also has some goodwill, all across the world that he's going to deploy very, very quickly. So we should be watching that ministry, attentively, and seeing a lot of remarkable things that will come out from that area. Mr. Wale Edun have been chosen for nursing the economy and monitoring it with finance. That is his mainstream. He also is coming with a lot of goodwill from that industry. And he has worked with the president now since 1999 that I've known. And they've worked very seamlessly. They've done great job for the Lagos economy and all other areas. So he also will be pulling the team together in order to make them excel very quickly. The blue economy, that is one area, that blue ministry, that I know that will create huge jobs. And a lot of remarkable transformation, innovation will come from that area. Now, the Federal Capital Territory, there's been a lot of distortion in the master plan. You now have someone that is aggressively hungry for development, looking at what he has done in River State. And he keen to that plan. Good enough, he has been minister before, so he knows the terrain very well. Good enough, he has been governor. And good enough, he has also worked in that infrastructural angle. So I don't see anybody coming to intimidate him or calling to tell him that. So the best he would do now is his knowledge that he has acquired over time, and also going to key in to that sector very, very well. On health, he brought in two eggheads, one from the diaspora, the other one from mainstream Nigeria. So you're going to have a lot of people using the word Japa that have gone. It's going to speak in the language they understand in order to woo them back and woo more people to Nigeria to fix the health sector. Now, the man in here, of course, knows the system very well, so they are going to pull their strength together in education. Good enough, he has also brought in a professor. Now, working with us, the president has been able to save a lot of funds by the subsidy removal. So we are going to see those funds also coming back to education. And he has also put a structure in place for people to go borrow funds in order to continue with their educational activities.
Right.
So all of these things will be deployed into play. The woman that be handling the women ministry and all of these things, I foresee that she's going to play a very pivotal role, and of course working in sync with the office of the First Lady. The First Lady being a former senator, being a former First Lady of Lagos, so you have a lot of capacities that will be deployed into those areas. Agriculture, same, and many of these ministries.
All right, we need to quickly go on another break. When we return, we'll continue the conversation. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Before we went on the break, we were talking about the ministers designate inauguration and looking at specific or key portfolios and the work cut out for them. I still have our guests in the studio with us discussing this. Now, I'm coming to you, Akin. You have been talking about key performance index as well as key performance action. Now, let's bring it to the economy, for instance. If you look at the paper this morning, the matter of job creation, inflation, as well as looking at stabilizing the Naira is one of the issues that Nigerians are saying that, you know, the minister in charge has a whole lot to do. When you're talking about key performance index and action, what are your expectations with regards to he hitting the ground running?
Easy, low-hanging fruits.
Right.
Leadership. Leadership is not an Oxford or Cambridge thing. Sometimes it's emotional intelligence, understanding your environment, and then going out for it, so going after it decisively, focusedly, and determinedly. So, the supervising minister for each that President Bola Tinubu has arrayed as people that can help him lies with President Bola Tinubu himself. I will try and explain this based on immediate past history. During President Jonathan's time, we had somebody that had been headhunted, and I'm going to come back to Wale Edu now, from the diaspora. And we were all shouting, Okunjo, Ezekwesili, they are going to be paid, you know, in foreign currency. Obasanjo just stood his ground. President Jonathan inherited Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala. I know for a fact that one of the most traumatic things that happened to that lady of class and eclat, who is at the World Trade Center, you know, today, was frustration. It was frustration because the chief samurai at that time, Jonathan gave her a portfolio. Looks to me as if President Jonathan looked at the other side. I know how the jostle for power and control between Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala and the Azani Madueke went. I was in the oil and gas. I know for sure. In fact, at one point in time, Mrs. Okonjo-Iweala sat in the meeting with us on all this subsidy or no subsidy thing. I don't know. Gradually raised a hand and said, "Look, this is quite frustrating." The last letter she wrote to the industry was, "Well, non-dimitis. I have tried my best, but I'm not sure I'm getting the kind of cooperation." If you make somebody the coordinating minister for the economy, so important. That coordinating minister for the economy is like a GM. Okay, I mean, it's like your hand, your nose, with spies elsewhere. In fact, the ministries that you mentioned, I would like to kindly and politely add the Ministry of, I'm talking of the Attorney General and the Minister of Justice, Lateef. Himself, well-honed, the Minister of the Economy, also well-honed, looking at the legal implications of some of the Achilles heel that we already have, should make sure that legally speaking, this federal government obeys the rule of law and the rule of justice. You ask me, I asked feebly, and it looked like a very funny question at that time to Mr. Kunjo at the boardroom. And I said, Madam, I mean, if these things are going on now, why are you still here? And I hope she'll see this, and she shook her head. Not long after that, she wrote a book. She nearly lost her life. So many other things cropped up. Mr. President, as Chief Samurai, must recognize the interlinkage between the Attorney General, Minister for Justice, hopefully will be strong enough to now then say some of the things that we'll be talking about, we need to separate them, that's by the way, to now look at all the other sectors. Wale Edun must be respected more for his intellect and the fact that everybody will want to come to him, whether it's digital economy, whether it's intensifying, whether it's labor, whether it's education, all the enabling rules and laws for us to be able to get the trust back out there. They are very, very important. I think Wale Edun, from his antecedents, based on perception and perhaps a little bit on my own little knowledge about his antecedents, is not just an A1 and a first-class practitioner. He's there. Now, let's look at health. Professor Pate. And Wale, I don't know which university you went to, but I went to ABU.
I went to Lagos State University.
Okay, so this is time to now wave the flag of Ahmadu Bello University.
Right.
In 1990, when he did his MBBS, and the fact that not long after that, part of the things that he looked at as a CEO was primary health care. I am reminded of Professor Olikoye Ransom Kuti of blessed memory.
Absolutely.
I expect Professor Pate, who haven't left Gavi, at now coming to decide that he was going to work for government from the patriotic aspect of it, somebody like that must be not only respected, must be listened to. Look at all the shenanigans and all the cobwebs we have around the health management system, and there's so many, time will not permit people to go into it. Those are the kind of people, when they prepare their memo, it should not be me and Adewale competing to please the boss and stuff like that. We can cooperate. And this is what I'm looking at. Oh, you have not looked at some other legal implications. Can you delay this a little bit and stuff like that? So that by the time you now get onto the presenting your papers at the council meeting, is going to be not only robust. I'll be speaking at a pitch to which the legal officer will be supporting me, to which Festus Keyamo, who I think is also a lawyer, will be looking at some legal shenanigans in an aviation which has not been a top notch. We are all going to be looking at that from the perspective. Final point I want to say here. For any of these ministers that we know, they are not necessarily there because of what they want to eat, more of patriotism, more of the hope agenda. I have an advice. Please do not be afraid. Do not be afraid when you see the truth. Say the truth to this power, to Mr. President. He may shake his head, he may whatever it is, but he's going to go back into the recess of it. I've always said this before, and said, yeah, this is not a yes man, including the fact that, Mr. President, if you don't do it this way, we are going to go do it that way, here's my letter of resignation. That is very, very important. It takes things like that very, very seriously. But we have a management system whereby KPIs have been developed.
Yeah.
Job studies and job descriptions have been taken. And I use the word, I use the term 6 months, that every 6 months, each of these ministers should not necessarily be accountable, should be accountable to the commander-in-chief, absolutely no doubt about that, should also be accountable to us. Liaising also with their state governors taking care of the politics and legislators, both at the national and at the state level. If this is what I see President Bola Tinubu meaning when, after 2 days, 3 days, he made a profound statement to his army chiefs and security chiefs. I want inter-agency cooperation, and that should go for all of them, because the strength of the chain is with the weakest. There will naturally be the weakest in there. It behoves on this board of ministers to look at it, see what is happening elsewhere, give good advice so that we can put Nigeria in the right trajectory.
Putting Nigeria in the right trajectory, that's what Nigerians are also talking about. Let's look at the matter of security now and defense. I wonder what your key performance index will be for him. Nigerians are saying that there's been several conversations with regards to he handling that portfolio, talking about Bello Matawalle, who's a former governor, and that perhaps his experience will also come to play with regards to this. But what do you see him doing, putting it side by side the renewed hope agenda?
What I see him doing is he bringing the people closer to the various security structures that we have in a non-kinetic way. No matter how you try to use brutal force or strong force in order to achieve a very secure environment, if you don't bring the people in terms of gathering information, making the area very permissible, it won't work. And while he was governor, he has never been known for any controversy that I know of in that area of security and all whatnot. And with his age and his experience, these are things that will work in that area. But you should not also forget that you also have a very good square peg in a square hole in the person of Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, looking at his performance as the EFCC boss and all whatnot. And he's very civil in his approach. So you having him as the NSA, now working with the Minister for Security and all whatnot, and you have very good elements within the security formation, and the CNC is there. So you're going to have Heges working very strongly to get the people involved in securing our space. And those professionals will also do the needful. But you must also look at the foreign approach, because most of these arms and ammunition, we don't produce it here. And the president has assured us that a lot of it will be produced here. Good enough, we have some armor companies that are domiciled in Nigeria that are doing very well, like the one in Ogun State and all whatnot. And we also need to recruit more people into our security architecture to increase the number for them to watch all of these areas very closely and carry out whatever assignment that they're given to them. But the foreign approach is that we also need to redefine our foreign relationship with many of these countries that controls the security infrastructure, especially when it comes to aviation. And all of that, those fighter jets, we need more attack helicopters, we need more ships to police our waterways and all of that. We also need to strengthen local production. What I would expect him to do now, send more Nigerians out to gather the training, gather the knowledge, come back in and domesticate it. By now, Nigeria should be producing warship. You understand? We have the capacity, we have people that can do it. We need to also improve the Ajaokuta steel mill and some other, of our natural resources that are embedded and all of these things. So a lot of concentration must go into domestic production and, of course, increasing our numbers.
Right. The other issue is the issue of education. we're dealing with out-of-school children and so many issues when it comes to the education sector. And the fact that we also have the matters of labor on the ground, strike, and the president, you know, in his speech when he was accepting when he was named as the winner of the election, and he was saying that he's going to ensure that 4 years is 4 years, addressing the matter of strikes in the education sector. That's another matter right now on the ground that Nigerians are hoping will be looked into. And then we also have the issue of doctors striking, and these are labor matters. Key performance index and actions. What do you see these persons doing?
Veronica,
Yes.
I will say the truth to myself first.
Okay.
Pray about my truth, no matter how hard and difficult. And I'll come to you. Of course, you know, your first reaction will be to cast me away. But to say truth will always be constant. But when you now put some conscience into it, like what Madam Fulio said, it will heal. We have lied to ourselves so tremendously and so ferociously that Machiavelli has said, we've taken it for truth. Education, you said. The problems we have in the education sector goes beyond what this president, I dare say, you could have an idea, you could put policy directives on them, goes beyond it to a backlog of so many things that have been done wrongly. I will come out and say the truth. Like I said to myself, I say the truth to Nigerians. You don't want to buy my truth, then you take me off. Starting with education. We have made alliances, assurances, promises. There's a whole lot of backlog that is out there that's unpaid, that will remain unpaid unless we begin to take some of those bold actions that the president took in, day one, day two of his inauguration on Monday, 29 May. And that we've got to be able to freeze money to be able to now take it in there. He's facing challenges in there. The doctors who said, the ASU, not talking about labor, the Labor Congress, and all at the state level. It therefore tells me, I know you are not asking that, because part of the truth I'm going to tell myself is, I am a performer. And if you give me the tools, I'm going to be able to deliver.
Right.
If I don't have the tools, I don't have a few other things in there, I'll look at the wall and ask myself, what then should we do? This country must physically deconstruct. We call it any name you want to call it. We must restructure. We have to restructure because we may not be able to afford at a time go. We have to restructure in such a way and manner. I haven't said the truth. The other thing about that truth is that I will also live by example. I will not decide to be fat, in my waist and then be asking people to
tighten their belt.
Educational reform that we have, maybe gray areas are here and there. I expect one of the first things that the education minister should do, also being a lawyer, being in Bayes University, a university that I know is owned by the deputy presidential candidate of Labour.
Vice presidential candidate.
Vice presidential candidate of Labour. And then let's call ourselves around the table. Certain things are just not going to happen. But if I say certain things are not going to happen, I will have to be showing that example. So I show that example and tell certain things are not going to happen. This is the path we should go. If we do this, this is what is going to come in. If we, economics talk about, when returns diminish, and then, forgone alternatives. If you do not plug certain things, we are not going to get in there. You can't do it all at a go. So my KPI will be for the education minister to come out and say the truth. Well, for all the ministers, but for education minister, this is the truth of the matter. I am going to go to Mr. President. I am going to be asking for a situation where the constitution that we are operating is skewed towards enriching some people, whether National Assembly or whatever it is. This needs to be caught. We need to begin to show that great example. And I tell you, Mr. Lecturer, some of these things that you are asking for are just not possible. In the oil and gas, we tried it. Same labor. During our time, said, no, certain things are not going to happen. Certain things are not going to happen. So come in. Let's come and say, let's give it to you. Let's see what we are going to do. And people are just looking here and there. When you involve people, and you involve them in a way and manner that they see you as that blind man who, while frying the groundnut, is whistling so that the deaf will know that something is not going down. So we need trust. We need some form of restructuring. The KPI will be such that you look at yourself. You don't go there and go and tell Mr. President or tell Nigerians that you are going to resolve in 6 months. No, you can't say that. You can't say that when you have not, kind of streamlined the legal things that have gone wrong all over the place. And because we need to begin to see action from you, when Nigerians begin to see some of these things, they will trust you, they will give you some relative chance, and they will know that by leading to such example and being fair, being equitable. The reason why I brought in Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, he has a lot of job cut out for him. And you asked him about Matawale, okay, that's by the way. On the face of it, the two and two, the dots are not nothing. I don't know what is in the brains of Mr. President. I know there are a lot of state actors. Talk of Matawale, talk of Badaru, and all. These people are all at the fringe. And you're talking about Tuga, a foreign minister, who know and should know that some things needs to be done about the issue of Niger. Come out, tell Nigerians the truth, right. Live true, live exemplary, and Nigerians are going to follow you. Pure and simple.
All right. The other aspect will be the aspect of power. And Nigerians say that power is critical to the day-to-day runnings of their lives, be it businesses, whatever it is as it is. And I am wondering how you see the minister designate hitting the ground running to addressing this matter of power being available to every Nigerian, such that Nigerians can heave a sigh of relief in that aspect as well. Another issue is the matter of aviation that raised some controversy with regards to the minister designate, Festus Keyamo, people saying that he perhaps does not have a basic idea with regards to the issues of aviation because he's a lawyer. How is it that he's getting that portfolio? How is he going to ensure that Nigerians or the country reaps the dividends or benefits it should with regards to the aviation sector? There's so much that is said can be tapped from the aviation sector, but how can he hit the ground running to ensuring that?
Well, before I answer the issue of power and aviation, I just want to contribute this to security. In that area, I think the security, the minister heading that ministry should also work aggressively on implementing state policing across the country. Okay. We've seen what is happening in the Southwest. You can see that you can see that the problem has really gone down.
Including ministers of police affairs and the
So we're putting everything under security now, right? They must work assiduously to implement state policing and community policing.
Right.
When you do that, then our military will have lesser work to do. So I'm hoping, and I know by the grace of God, by the time we finish these 4 years, every state should have its own police. And then you can have the right numbers that you want. Now, taking it to aviation, you see, one thing in the aviation industry that we need more is having very good framework right? If the framework are very good, the industry should be open to the extent that let key industry players come in, reduce the tax in that particular sector. Because when you look at the cost of air flight, just from Togo here to the United States or to Europe, it's almost half of what should be paid in Nigeria. Mm-hmm. The Nigerian cost is too high.
Yes.
And you also need to create a lot of buffer funds for key industry players in Nigeria in order to support that business and all whatnot. Mr. Keyamo will be able to do a lot in that area. We don't expect him to start producing hangars, producing Boeing engines and all of that. What you need more, right, is a very focused
framework.
The legal framework for them to operate in that industry.
Okay.
Then on power.
Quickly.
Good enough that the former president has unbundled that area. Good enough that is one of the strengths of the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he has demonstrated in year 2000 when he wanted to bring on board the IPP project and all of that. Now he has the opportunity to do that, and I'm very sure that is one particular ministry he will put his eyes into.
Okay, we have to leave our conversation here now. Our time is up. Gentlemen, I must thank you. Former Manager, Public and Government Affairs